Dead by Daylight just dropped patch 9.2.0, and it's absolutely massive. We're talking about fundamental changes to slugging, tunneling, and entire killer reworks. And honestly, it's good to see these big changes. Here's the thing most people don't realize about these huge updates. They're not actually targeting you if you play normally. Let me explain who these changes are really for. First, let's talk about high MMR killers. These are players who prioritize winning above all else. They don't follow the Survivor rulebook. They don't worry about the other players' feelings. They just focus on being as efficient as possible. And hey, that's totally fine. It's a valid way to play. But when you run into these strategies as a casual player, it's not exactly the most fun experience. They're not trying to ruin your day, they're just playing to win. The new changes are going to affect some of these high efficiency strategies. 4-minute bleedouts become impossible. Instant tunneling gets more counterplay. These players will adapt because they're good at the game, but it might make these encounters a bit less one-sided for everyone else. And honestly, there's probably some work needed on the Survivor side too. Incredibly strong items and coordinated teams can be just as overwhelming. But that's not what this patch is focusing on. Here's what I really want to talk about. The other extreme. Low MMR killers who feel stressed and overwhelmed very easily. These are players who don't want to use toxic strategies, but feel like they have to because they're getting demolished. If you're a killer who tunnels because you feel like you have no other choice, not because you want to be toxic, these changes are actually going to help you. The anti-slugging changes give you a safety net without punishing normal gameplay. You can still absolutely slug for pressure. You can still avoid that decisive strike by picking someone up at 61 seconds, since DS expires at 60, and the self-pickup doesn't activate until 90 seconds. The anti-tunneling changes work the same way. They don't stop you from going after recently unhooked survivors if that's your best play. They just give those survivors a better chance to reset and make the game more dynamic. And here's the most important part. If you're in what I call the Dead by Daylight sweet spot, it's a glorious place. These changes barely affect you at all. If anything, they help you. The sweet spot is where most players actually are. You're playing for fun. You naturally spread out hooks. You're not optimizing every decision. You adapt to different situations instead of running the same rigid strategy every time. If you're in that sweet spot, you probably won't even notice most of these changes because you already play the way these updates are trying to encourage. You're flexible. You adjust your playstyle based on what's happening in the match. You don't stress about winning every single game. The beautiful thing about large systematic changes like this is that they shake up the stagnant pattern that make matches feel boring and repetitive. Mass slugging strategies are completely eliminated, and players are just going to have to think more dynamically. So when you see people panicking about this patch, remember that if you play normally, you don't rely on extreme strategies. You're most likely going to benefit from these changes. Your matches will be more varied and less predictable, and hopefully more fun. The players who are really upset about this patch are probably the ones who are making your games miserable in the first place. If you want more content like this, subscribe and like the video. Follow for more. My name is Jen. Thanks for watching.